NBA trade deadline right around the corner, coming up on February 10th. So on today's show, we're going to take a look at some Lakers trade targets. Also, we have an update on Anthony Davis. When is he going to come back into the lineup? But first, this is why you subscribe. We're bringing you coverage year-round, all covering the Los Angeles Lakers during the year, during the offseason. Hey, we're always breaking it down. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below. Let's get to 41,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Laker Nation, what's good? Welcome into the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Hope all of your weeks are off to a fantastic start. We start off today's show by taking a look at some Lakers trade targets. This list put together by Bleacher Report, and we're conveying the message to you because I really like how they broke it down in different types of tiers. And we start off with the dream target tier, and the trade target for Los Angeles, Eric Gordon, guard of the Houston Rockets, who over time has really become a very, very good offensive player and reliable three-point shooter. Right now, the Lakers are 15th in three-point shooting percentage, and we've harped on this a lot here on the show. Lakers need to get better athletically. They need to get some younger players with youth and bouncing, but also they really need to improve their shooting stroke from beyond the arc because they have not been good in that area. And in nowadays NBA, you have to have floor spacers, you have to have shooters, and throughout his NBA career, Eric Gordon has been very good at letting it fly from distance. The top NBA three-point percentage leaders. Now, this all is interesting because some of these guys don't take that many attempts per night. Eric Gordon does, yet he's still shooting 45% from long range, right behind P.J. Tucker at 45.9, followed by Keldon Johnson, Mike Muscala, and Tyrese Halliburton, the good second-year player of the Sacramento Kings. You take a look at what Eric Gordon has been able to do throughout his career, and this year, after a slow start, he's really picked it up, as evidenced by that 45% clip from deep. 16.5 points per game for his career, little less than 3 dimes. He's never been a big assist guy. Really, he's asked to put the biscuit in the basket. He's done a good job of that this year and throughout his NBA career. 43% shooter for his career, 37% from deep. Very, very good numbers. Now, I think Gordon would be able to shore up a lot of the Lakers' issues. He's not going to give you a ton defensively, which is another one of those needs that we talk about with this Lakers roster right now. But they just don't have a lot of reliable shooters from beyond the arc who you can rely upon to really let it fly and connect in a very efficient way. Eric Gordon able to do that, and that's why he is a dream target as far as a Lakers trade candidate going into February 10th. This right here is going to be our pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, just scroll on down and get your votes in. By the time you do that, we'll be back rocking and rolling. Name a Lakers trade target we should be talking more about. Get into the comments section. We might feature that trade target on a future show. Realistic trade target, a guy who we've talked about here on the Lakers Report before, Kenrich Williams, the TCU legend, currently kind of a swing man for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I love player development stories because that goes to show that these players have been in the lab, they've been working at their craft, and they put the necessary work in to really improve as a player. That's what Kenrich Williams has been able to do over the last several years since getting into the NBA. And look, he was a journeyman, he was popping around a couple spots, and now he's really found a home at OKC. That franchise has really turned into a pretty good player development factor as they continue to rebuild. But you just look at how the numbers have grown over time. And really what you're focusing in on here for Kenrich Williams, it's the field goal percentage. Look, last year it was certainly better, but everybody's field goal percentage last year was inflated because players and teams were playing in front of empty arenas. But this year, he's been a pretty solid two-way player, kind of a 3-and-D guy, 7 points per game, 4 rebounds, 46.5% from the floor. And why I like Kenrich Williams, you don't have to pay much for him. He doesn't really make a lot of money. He is cheap, he's affordable, and I just like players who are developing and can continue to develop. That's why I'm kind of in on Kenrich Williams as a Lakers trade target. Now make sure you subscribe to the Lakers Report by Chat Sports because we've been pushing out multiple videos per week, upping our coverage here on the channel because all of you have shown that you really like our content as evidenced by the views. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below. We're giving you coverage during the year, during the offseason, NBA draft, free agency, news, rumors, trade targets, and more. Hey, the solution is simple. Join the Laker Nation family here at Chat Sports by just subscribing and hitting that red subscribe button down below. How about a sneaky trade target for the Lakers? I don't really like it. It's Lou Williams, who, look, he's won the Sixth Man of the Year award. He's come in off the bench for several playoff teams, and he's always put up pretty good offensive numbers, but he would be yet another old player on what is already an old roster. Now, this year he's only getting around 14 minutes per game, averaging around 7 points per, only shooting 38% from the field and 30% from long range on the deck. 32 games played so far. Had a really good playoff showing against the Sixers last year when in Game 5 he really showed up, showed out for the Atlanta Hawks in that monster comeback when Atlanta was able to come back from 25 points. His career numbers, very, very good, very, very respectable, since he was one of the last high school players to get drafted back in the day by the Philadelphia 76ers out of Gwinnett, Georgia. 14 points per game, 3.5 assists, and throughout his career, respectable shooter and pretty efficient in that regard considering the volume there. A guy who never really made it as a starter, but was able to win Sixth Man of the Year award, and as early as just a couple years ago, he was up in that conversation with Montrezl Harrell when Harrell was playing for the Clippers. So I'm out on Lou Williams. Maybe several years ago I would have been all in, because when he goes on a heater and he's in that microwave, he can really go off and be very entertaining. But another old player on this roster, yeah, I'm good. Now I kind of voiced my opinions. I like Gordon. I like Kenrich Williams. I don't really like Lou Williams. Pick one to trade for. Of these three guys who we just broke down on today's show, type EG for Eric Gordon, KW for K Willie, LW for Lou Willie, and get those votes in the comment section right now. BetUS is our presenting sponsor for today's show and the best sports book in the game right now. Head to chatsports.com/Lakers. Enter the promo code Lakers125 for a 125% deposit bonus. You put in $100, you get an additional $125 back. That's $225 to game with. NFL playoffs rolling along. We have NBA prop bets on BetUS, NBA spreads as well. You really can't turn down this offer, but you must use that link down below, chatsports.com/Lakers, and that promo code Lakers125 for that deal to apply. Anthony Davis, on Sunday's show, we said, okay, he was questionable prior to that game against the Miami Heat. Is he going to return against the Brooklyn Nets in two very, very difficult games for the Los Angeles Lakers? Frank Vogel, head coach of LA, at least for now. We'll see. With an update on AD after that loss to the Heat, a very close loss indeed at South Beach. We've got to make sure we do this safely and at the right pace and at the right time. In terms of what pushed it, we just knew he was getting close, so we wanted to have transparency with reporting that it wasn't 100%, that he wouldn't play, so we had him as questionable, but we knew that it was probably unlikely. There were no setbacks or anything like that. It's just a matter of him getting closer. Obviously, when you bring back a player who is capable of being a top 3, top 5 player in the NBA, but injuries have really cost him from consistently being in that upper echelon tier, it's going to give you a big boost, and it's going to be much needed on both ends of the floor. I mean, Anthony Davis is spectacular as a defensive player, as an offensive player. Now, before the injury, he was shooting around 25%, I believe, from three-point range, which is awful. And look, AD was still averaging around 23 points per game, around a double-double per night, but considering the expectations for him, he wasn't living up to those lofty expectations. Call it fair or unfair, whatever you want. When you're deemed and you have the ability of being a top 3 to 5 player, you're asked to do that on a night-in, night-out basis. LeBron James has never had a problem with that. Anthony Davis has. And the injuries, soft tissue stuff, nagging injuries, they've really cost Anthony Davis over the last 2 seasons. Frank Vogel, is he under fire again if AD struggles? I don't know. Maybe. I think Frank Vogel is really under the watchful eye of management and ownership. The Lakers 7-10 with AD out. 21st in the NBA during that span. So they've been in the bottom third of the NBA in terms of wins and losses without AD. And even when AD wasn't playing well, this was a better Lakers team. And even if he continues to not play well throughout this year, it's a big boost for Los Angeles. There's no doubt about it. Now, what's crazy, considering how highly paid this roster is, it ain't looking good in the Western Conference standings, folks. Phoenix Suns, Warriors, Grizzlies, Jazz, and the Mavericks, who are streaking in the top 5 spots in the Western Conference. And if the season were to end today, the Lakers would once again, for the second consecutive year, be in the NBA play-in tournament. When you have LeBron, you have AD, you have Russell Westbrook, you have a highly paid roster, and the expectations are what they are for Los Angeles year in, year out. When you're expected to hoist the Larry O.B. and bring back a championship, that ain't good enough. That's why there's a lot of pressure on this team. That's why Russell Westbrook is receiving a lot of flack. That's why Frank Vogel, according to reports, is on the hot seat. 23-24 with LeBron James as a bona fide MVP candidate is not going to cut it. How important is Davis's health to the Lakers season? If you're not typing 10, then I'm confused. But you scale it for me from 1 to 10. We're all about freedom of speech here in America and on the Lakers Report. So you can say whatever you want in the comments section and rip me too if you want. Either way, thanks for watching today's show. We greatly appreciate the support.